guess you can always tell when people are doing videos by themselves because they have to go and turn the camera on. I haven't got one of those little shaving brushes yet. I want to get myself one of them shaving brushes that everyone holds when they're doing these kind of things. But yeah, so what I'm doing at the moment, I'm putting together some big U-shaped beams. Now you hear me talk about PU beams being U-shapes. Now for this polystyrene, it's the flame-proof polystyrene, 300 to 500 grade. To make that U-shape, what's got to happen is basically the machines have to be put into, right, it's a long story, but it's more cost effective for me to have it made in pieces like this, and then simply using the foam adhesive, which we use a lot of in this game, is to make that U-shape. Now the reason for the U-shape is this is going into a slight apex roof, very, very slight angle of one of these cottage mobile home lodges, they call them these days. You quite often see these things on the motorway. You'll see them on the back of trucks, usually two trucks in a convoy, and you'll see these sort of big two halves of these buildings that they slot together. There's some wonderful lore about if it's got wheels on it, it's still a caravan, it can be put just about anywhere. So that's going in the centre, it's going to be beamed, and then there's this mantelpiece is going across to what I showed you in the previous video. So to make this very simple then, we just cut the main piece, which in this case is 300mm by, it will be about 250. And the reason that I'm doing it in three, I say it's in three pieces. The reason for the small one is that the main polystyrene comes in 2.4 metre lengths, and the customer sent me the size in feet and inches, what they do. So 16'7" means I've got to add about 7 inches, depending whether they're male or female, what 7 inches is. But yes, 6-7 inches I've got to add to these two once it's up on the ceiling. So in effect, I had an extra 500mm length made because you have to trust your customer. This job is in South Wales. I'm in Lancashire. It's about 4.5 to 6 hours depending on the traffic and what day it is. So for me to go all the way down to Wales just to measure this thing is not really on. So we're trying to keep the price down, we're trying to keep it realistic. So I've got two jobs in South Wales, this one and another one, so it makes it a viable proposition to go down there and do two at once. I've got another job in Weymouth, which is could be anything, could be 6-7 hours to get down there. But yeah, it's all part of the job. So what I'm going to do with these, I've got some long screws here, which are the ones we use to hold these things up against the ceiling. So when we use our props, we've got adjustable props, and we put this onto the ceiling, in this case like that, and then we use these long screws simply to hold it in place whilst this spray adhesive actually goes off, dries. So Sudabond is a good one. If you buy it with the gun, then please buy it with the cleaner as well, because it does go hard in the gun if you're not careful. You can in effect screw that tight when you're finished. It keeps the end sealed, so in effect the foam should be okay inside to go. So when you get to your next job, you can just unscrew it and it should start. Personally, I prefer to take the old one off and clean the top with this. The little cleaner comes with a nozzle attached to it, which goes on top of or it screws to here. So you can clean the inside out, you can clean the outside out, you can clean foam off your shirt, off your hands. I spend many a weekend trying to bite the skin off because it's gone hard on my skin. So yeah, so a couple of long screws, these are the standards we buy. Go to a builder's merchants or a fastening company, because you'll pay probably 2 to 3 times more for that 250mm screw in B&Q than you will at a merchant. So I think these are about £1, something like that. B&Q probably near £3. So yeah, so all I'm doing is I'm just going to test this a little bit, see how much she's coming out. This is an old gun, so it's a little bit tired. But yeah, that's enough, I think. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bit of a full job on a full length one. But with this, you don't need much more than a bead, and anything that comes off, just right there a second, and then place that on top. And this is because, say, I mentioned this, if I would have got this particular what was it, 16'7" beam cut on a machine in 3 pieces, and I cut the U out, the price would have been £100 more because of the time and the machine setting involved. So doing it in 3 pieces, a little bit inconvenient for me, but doesn't really matter. Again, I'm just putting the screws. Because these are only a third threaded, going to be threaded from there to there. I don't want to go all the way through because I want some of the thread to be kind of like that. So some of it's on this bit, some of it's on the main bit, which means it's going to stay. So again, just checking it's all nice and square and straight. Take these out afterwards, of course, and then. When I see people making what they call box beams, particularly in America, they buy the very thin sheets of polystyrene, or they'll buy the stuff with the grey kind of primer on the outside they use for putting tiles up with, the backings for tiles. That's all well and good, but you've got to then, for some reason, that screw has got a different end on it. I talk about screws a lot because they are a bane. We don't take them out. If we put the beam up with using screws, the screws are only there really to hold it in place while the glue goes off. But again, you might as well leave them there because there's no point in taking them out once they're in. Gives you that extra little bit. And a lot of the cases, you're only going into the plasterboard. If you had to find rafters on every job you did for these beams, you'd never get any done because you'd end up with a ceiling full of holes. We've all seen those pictures of electricians that have been trying to find rafters to put spotlights in, the little downlighter lights. So that's going to go off in about 10 minutes, so just give it a bit of a push. You could clamp these if you have the little G clamps. Again, it's just more tools you've got to sort yourself out with. Don't get me wrong, I've had all the tools. When I had guys working for me, we had a van full of everything we ever needed, most of which got broken, lost, or left on jobs. So again, just a little bead down there. Stop just before the end because it's only going to squeeze out anyway. As soon as I've stopped that, I'm going to lock that off so the end is now sealed. They're very top heavy, these things. If you put it that way, it'll fall over. You can't. You just have to put them down the side really. You end up. So again, just line that end up by sight. I'm going to put my finger on the end of there, just to get like a nice little square edge. And then with the base of in upstairs, I'll screw that one in. Now, going back to the polystyrene itself, I mean, you can do anything with it, so it doesn't matter if you go over. You just cut. If you have a joint showing there too much, just that overlapping slightly, you're going to have to sand it down. So just do it right the first time. So say I only need 7 inches of this, but whilst I'm messing about, pick that same screw up again. Weirdly enough, that has got, it's probably a PZ end on it. Screws are a nightmare because depending on who made them, which country they came from, you've got at least 3 to 4 different thread head styles. So the actual Phillips American. So Phillips 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got Posi Drive 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got Torque-X in about a dozen different sizes. And I'm that bloke when I'm in B&Q and see some guy or lady trying to figure out which screw to use. Ouch! Just stabbed myself. Then you've got to be careful because you buy, that bit in the end of that drill does not fit that screw there. Okay, so I've gone to all the trouble of, and I probably bought them for the job, and it's probably the only one left. But as I say, you just that's done there for now. As I say, same again. This one here has got, even though I'm not going to use it, it's got a 50-50 thread on it, so you can go quite the way through. And so you don't want to go all the way through because as soon as you get past onto the smooth bit, it's not holding the top part. Just little things like this that just save you time, and this is where, when you're buying the 3 pieces at the foot, 3 pieces of plank, and you're trying to make it all fit together, you've got to put blocks in it to hold it together. it becomes a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I bought this jacket just to keep me warm on, haven't you? With the aid of a bit of that spray and Stanley knife. So I won't be getting into trouble tonight when the wife comes home. It's worse on your hands, if it gets on your fingers. What happens is then for the next 2 hours, while it's a bit tacky, your fingers are getting black. And once it finally has gone off, as they call it, it's a horrible thing to get off your clothes, off your fingers, sorry. It doesn't smell particularly nice. I don't think you should be breathing it really, but anyway, it's only a jacket for doing that. Right, okay, sorry, I do diverse. That's basically that done. Wait for that to dry now. If you had a bigger bench than I've got, you can always turn it over, but I just leave them like that. So I've got 2 at 2.4 metres already done. I've got this little one, which is whatever it is, 600-800 millimetres. And I say this one, I don't know, I did a tape measure earlier in the day, but it's about 7, literally it's only about that much that I need. But I'm going to cut it perhaps to 12 inches to a foot once it's dry. I can always use that bit that's left over as a sample, so we can actually still beam it, still do it. And then I've got 2 jobs to go and see tomorrow, Saturday. Locally, one in Manchester, one in Burnley. So if I had that ready, I could take that as a nice fresh sample to show somebody. And a lot of people are concerned about how heavy these things are, whether or not. So yeah, that's it for the minute.